Hi, welcome back to the course. In this module, I'll be showing you how to install the important things you need so you can follow along with the course, from anti-gravity to setting up your Superbase and Vessel accounts. The first thing we'll be doing is installing our IDE. For that, we're going to use anti-gravity. So, we are going to use Google Anti-Gravity. Google Antigravity is a software you basically can use to write code and also generate code. It is agent driven. So what you want to do is come to the top or bottom and just quickly download. If you're using a Mac, you would install for either Apple Silicon if you're using any of the M series, or Intel if you're using an older machine. Also, Windows and Linux are not left behind. You can basically install for Linux and install for any of the Windows systems you're using. So I'm using an Apple Silicon and I would basically just download mine. Awesome, so I'm done with downloading Antigravity, so I'm simply going to set it up. So all you have to do is essentially double click and then you're good to go. So in my case, I can easily just drag and drop it here, but I already have Antigravity installed, so I'm going to go ahead with the setup so you can follow along. So I'm going to open Antigravity. And for a first-time user, this is basically all you get to see. All right, now we have Antigravity installed. Let's just do a basic setup. You can basically choose whatever you want, from solarized light to dark modern to solarize dark. I'm just going to be a normal human being and use dark modern. So there are different modes. Oh, okay. As usual, an update also wants to be installed, which is not all the Antigravity. You might get updates almost every 2 days, but that's fine. I mean, it's new technology, so fixing bugs is basically part of their daily regimen. So you want to use the Antigravity agent, you're going to see different modes. You have like the strict mode, the development driven mode, the agent driven mode, the custom configuration. I'm going to go with agent driven. I know that this is recommended, right? But like it becomes a hassle when it constantly keeps asking you to proceed and proceed and proceed, right? So personally, I go with the agent driven development. Let's keep the key bindings at normal. Never use Vim, else you'll not be able to get out. The extensions, let's just leave them at the recommended. If there's anything we need to install, we'll add them later. And now here the fun part, you get to sign in with Google. So I'm basically going to sign in with my Google accounts. All right, awesome. So we're in. Yes. When you install anything from Antigravity to Claude or AI agent tools, they're basically going to ask you for a lot of permissions. My advice is that you read through them to make sure you know what's happening. Giving an agent permission to use your laptop is like giving a pretty smart AI-powered individual access to your computer. You need to know what's going on because you don't have to wake up to deleted files or have some weird story to tell. So please make sure you read through. Now we have Antigravity installed. The first thing you want to do is to get familiar with your workspace. Let's take a look. Let's take things from left to center to right. The first thing we're going to do is create a workspace. So I'm going to come to my desktop and create something called new project, or let's call it projects. And in new projects, I'm going to create something called my first project. Now we can make sense of this. This is the explore area where you can see everything in your project. There are no files here. We haven't created anything yet. We can create a new file and I'll call it index.html, right? Which is where we can write all our HTML code, or which way all our HTML code is reside, but like all of this can get rewritten based on what we tell our agents to do. You can search through, right? If there's any code written here, it will to search through. Hello, here, and if I search for Modia here, to find it in any file that the word Modia appears. This is your source control. For Git, we do not have that installed yet, but when we do, you will see how it works. These are extensions. Now we have one extension already installed. We actually have a bunch of extensions, and these are recommended extensions that we can install. Right, pretty straightforward. So I could decide to install one just to show you how it works. Let's see. This is great. This is a debugger tool for Firefox. So you can just show publisher and install. It takes a while, but it gets installed. The middle is basically where you can preview everything that's going on in terms of files. Now I can see all my files are listed here. I can interact with them in the middle. I can write on my IDE. I can read stuff that have to do with extensions I've installed. This is where I talk to my agent. I can basically give it any form of commands that I want, telling it what I want to build, describe my project in detail. There's almost no limits to how much words I can type in here, maybe 1 million words, but I mean, who's going to type that much? And finally, we have our terminal underneath. We can basically write our bash commands here on our terminal, and we would see how that works, and I will explain all of that to you when the time comes. As a recap, what we have done today is installed Antigravity on our machine and launched it. We were able to sign in with our Google account. We created a workspace. Of course, it pointed to an empty folder when we started, but then we created our first project. And then we have a sense of where the file tree is, where the editor is, and where the terminal is. So in our next class, we'll be setting up a cloud account. See you soon.